guys, my name is Wisteria, and today I am here to teach you how to become a better songwriter. If that's something that you're interested in, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to this channel. Alright, so if you are new here, my name is Wisteria. I've been a producer for about 4 years now. I mainly focus on abstract hip-hop, EDM, and experimental lo-fi. What we're going to do today is we're going to review how to create gritty and hard-hitting drums for your songs. The way we're going to do that is, let's dive in. So the first thing you really want to focus on, there's 3 things you want to focus on. First thing is texture. Second thing is sound selection. And then your third thing is your effects. Those are the 3 key elements, very simple, to the point, and not too hard to get a hang of. So this is my song Angels. It's out on Spotify if you guys do want to check it out. It's going to be the same name as my YouTube channel, so WXSTERIA on all platforms if you do want to check that out. But this is what it sounds like. I'm going to go over the song. Alright, we're not going to go over the entire song. Right now we really just want to focus on the drums, right? So these are the drums that we're going to go over. As you see, it's all this. It's a lot of tracks to it. You don't need to have as much tracks as I do. I just did this because for my soundscape that I wanted to build, that's kind of what it took. But yeah, so the first thing is texture. What texture does, especially if you want to make harder hitting, nasty drums, it allows your drums to sit in a certain soundscape, and it helps your drums kind of have like an extra groove under all of your sounds, your snares, hi-hats, kicks, all of that. So what I used for textures, if you guys want to hear this all together, I'll just play this. Right? So it looks like there's a lot of different textures going on. You have some hi-hat, kind of loud perk sound that sounds really gritty and almost like you're hitting a metal pan with the stick. And then you have this sound, which is just a vinyl crackle, just like your usual boom bap kind of, you know, if you listen to any of The Alchemist or any old hip hop records from the 90s, maybe some MF Doom, Alchemist, you know, if you listen to Griselda, Griselda is very, very well known for that kind of stuff. They just have simple groove, right? And that allows it just to sit in a certain soundscape so that these drums sound like they're being played live. Here is another part of it. I found a sound off of the Somatics drum pack, um, where, let's see what this is called, time percussion loop. So it literally is just like a clock. Like if you listen to this, it's just like a clock ticking. And what I did was I just reversed it so that it would have just has a bit of a different feel, messes with the groove a little bit, and I think it's a really nice additional texture. Excuse me. Another one that I added was, this looks like it's another percussion kit. Oh, it's a ride cymbal. Yep. So this is a ride cymbal that I use to just kind of keep time. A lot of the time you need maybe like a hi-hat, a cymbal, just something to keep the whole beat grounded so that it doesn't seem like, even though there's all these crazy noises going around, like a whole bunch of Foley, you know, maybe the kick, the 808, the sample itself is going super crazy. And if you're going to get into experimental music, that's definitely fun. But my personal opinion, I do feel like it helps to have a texture that helps keep you grounded, whether that's a little tick, a cymbal, a hi-hat, something to just keep everything grooving, keep everything moving. And it helps, especially when you're recording vocals, it helps keep that beat going so that you're not getting lost with all these different bells and whistles going on in the background. But yeah, here's what that sounds like. But yeah, so those are the three main textures, and then I added this hi-hat here as well. That was a really like gritty one that I was telling you guys about earlier. No audio effects on this besides the whole drums, which is just a drum bus and a couple other things. We'll go over that a little bit later, just so you guys know. And yeah, again, let's go over those drums just all together. Everything just sounds like this. Also, forgot to mention, I have a couple drum fills, just that one that you heard right there. And this kind of goes, it's a Lex AJ Hall from his left field drum and bass pack on Splice. If you do like that fill and you want to use it in your own stuff, you could find it there. But yeah, so what I did with this fill was I pitched it, did like a little pitch shift so that it would kind of dip at the end. Right, you can kind of hear it kind of, and that really helps kind of give it a different feel so that it feels like it's an impact, right? A lot of the times if you just keep it straight and it just cuts off into the next one, yeah, it's a drum fill, but there's no movement in that drum fill, so it feels unnatural when it switches from beat to all of a sudden the drum fill to all of a sudden the next part of the song. So just adding those cool little tricks just to kind of add a little bit more texture and depth helps a lot when writing your songs and doing these little tricks. So I have that fill, And there's another fill in the second chorus right over here. And that sounds like this. Kind of the same thing. It's a different fill because I didn't want to have the same fill twice. You can do that. Again, it's really up to your own choice. We're all creatives here. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But that's just kind of what I did, just because I thought it would be a little bit more refreshing to kind of switch things up a little bit instead of just having the same stagnant thing over and over again. Next thing we're going to talk about, now that we got over texture, is sound selection. And sound selection and texture are kind of hand in hand. Sound selection is kind of what you choose to build your drums, and that includes hi-hats, cymbals, snares, kicks, percussion, all that good stuff. What I chose to do was to use some kind of rock-ish drums. I tried to make a shoegaze song, and I made this drum pack with just rock drums. Try to see what I could do. Didn't work out, besides the point. But I just used that drum pack to create these drums, and especially to make like a grittier song, especially if you want to make something like outside of the boom bap genre and you want to go into something more experimental, like if you want to do like a Nine Inch Nails, JPEG Mafia, Death Grips, stuff like that. They really use a lot of noise and really weird, unconventional drum sounds. JPEG Mafia on his last album, he used rock drums that were really, really funky, but they sound great, especially if you put the right effects on them, if you know how to set a certain groove to get a certain feeling. It really helps. Yeah, so here is the kick. It's just right? Super simple, nothing too crazy going on. A lot of my kicks are usually just like a hip hop kick. Sometimes I'll use a rock kick, other times I'll go experimental and get left field bass kicks just because they'll knock a little harder. But again, it's really all about how you design the sound, not so much what sound. It is kind of how you design the sound and what sound you use. Obviously using better quality sounds and stuff that where the transient hits a little harder is going to help you. But again, it's not really the end-all be-all thing. And here's the first snare. Right? Again, nothing too crazy, just a regular kind of like rock snare. Made it sound, just put a little bit of distortion on it, kind of boosted the volume a little bit, made it sound really nice. Here's another one. It's kind of like a rim. Right, again, most of these sounds aren't super crazy. You could do crazy, really, again, up to you. And if you notice on these grid lines, you notice on these grids, none of these are exactly on the grid. And I know other YouTubers and other producers have talked about this, but especially if you want a groove that hits hard and that sticks with people, you have to play a little bit off the grid. And the way you can do that, if you have like a MIDI keyboard or even like little piano. I don't know if you can see that. You really don't need super fancy gear to use that. You could also just use like your computer keyboard, and that helps as well. Um, but I used my LPK25 by Akai, however you can pronounce that. Um, I used their LPK25 that I got from my buddy, and he told me that you can chop samples, do all that good stuff. And it kind of helped me get better at my finger drumming, get better at my groove and feel. And again, it just makes it feel a little bit more human, more natural when you're playing it that way. But yeah, here is another rim shot that you could use. See how that one kind of has a little bit more space, like it breathes a little bit more. Yeah, I think that also allows it to feel like it's an actual drummer playing it live. Except for a little bit of the textures, like, oh, sorry about that. This part last here is a open hat, just to kind of throw off the groove a little bit. Again, really gritty, really nasty, just loud and abrasive. And that's really what you want. You can make these drums as abrasive as you want. You can put as many effects or as little effects. This is just kind of elements that I use to kind of make it as simple as possible for you guys to get the desired effect that you want. And here is the last rim shot. Again, I already went over the texture, so again, super simple. It is a lot simpler than you think. A lot of it is really up to just your ear and how you develop training that. And a lot of it does come down to effects. I only have 3 effects on my effect track for my drums. What I used was a drum bus on Ableton, and cranked up the drive to about 50%, cranked up the crunch a little bit, and then to make sure my kicks were hitting, let's play this right here. Right? So you have that. Here's without it. Split it again. Just fills up that space a whole lot more, and with the texture you can really feel that they're nice and gritty and just grungy and dirty. And that's really what you want. A lot of it isn't about specific presets that you use. I just go over them because it's easier to explain, especially if you want to follow along. You can always do that. Next, I used Trash by iZotope. You don't have to use this plugin. Any distortion plugin or any noise or bit reduction plugin really works. I just use this because, again, for my creative process, it wasn't, not that it was necessary, but I just heard that kind of fit my ear a little more than the other things that I had tried. But you can get some great effects using stock presets, and that's whether you use Ableton, whether you use Logic or FL Studio or BandLab even. It might be a little bit harder with BandLab. I haven't really seen what they got going on in terms of effects, but yeah, you can really do a lot with anything. I just cranked up the drive on this Trash, which is just like, again, just saturation. I did like a garage preset, and I think this is yeah, so distort, 10 spike, right? And then here you have a fuzz on a garage setting, and then this is like a preset You can just go through literally everything. Some of these are super, super noisy and crazy, and they glitch all over the place. Again, it's really up to your ear and what works best for you. We're gonna go with it. Here's without it. Here's with it again. Not a super big difference, but I think it does add a little bit of flavor on there, especially with the drum fills. It helps a lot. And the last thing was the saturation plugin, RC20. Again, you can use any saturation plugin, any distortion plugin. It'll do you equally as good. Let's kind of hear what this sounds like with. Let's do it without. Not as dirty. Somehow went weirdly into like a stereo sound. If you're hearing this on headphones, you might know what I mean. Like everything just kind of went from mono to where you could hear everything here in the middle. You take off the distortion saturation plugin, it just spreads out. Really weird. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it all is. If you got this far, I do have a question for you guys. Just let me down in the comments below. What was the last song with either gritty drums or just a gritty vibe that when you first heard it, you just did that stank face? You know what I mean? Drop that down below in the comments. And if you've made it this far, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Again, this is Wisteria, and what I can do for you is I can teach you how to be a better songwriter. Thank you everyone for watching.
Don't pick up the phone.